equals the air in the lecture hall felt electric, shoving against me like a cold wind that both chilled and invigorated. I could hear the hushed conversations blending into a low hum, creating an atmosphere heavy with anticipation. Lakeside University was known for its prestigious faculty and rigorous programs, but the real reason I was here, tucked into the back row of the expansive classroom, was for a different kind of lesson. My name is Ethan Rivers, and today was the day I would begin to unravel a web of betrayal that had been woven around me for years. Window blinds filtered the autumn sunlight, casting long golden stripes that fell across my old wooden desk, reminding me of the days when I used to sit here, grades slumping by the minute, lost in daydreams of a future that could be mine if I only worked hard enough. Now those dreams felt like ghosts haunting an old film reel, faded memories of who I might have become if it were not for the cruel hands of fate. I smirked bitterly, letting my brain wander back to a time when ambition flowed through my veins rather than bitterness. "Hey man," came a familiar voice, warm and welcoming, breaking me out of my reverie. I turned to see Jake, my former roommate and closest friend, plopping down next to me with his classic grin that could light up a dark room. "You look like you just came back from the grave." "Thanks," I replied, adjusting my glasses and forcing my lips into a smile that never quite reached my eyes. "Maybe I have. It feels like I'm here for some kind of dark resurrection." Jake rolled his eyes, unfazed by my cryptic comment. "You need to loosen up. It's just a seminar on business ethics. What's the worst that can happen?" "Oh, I don't know," I said, leaning back in my seat, my mind racing. "Maybe the professor will reveal that we have to do group projects with the very people who ruined our lives." "Come on, bud, group projects can't be that bad." "Oh, really? What about with someone like Sarah Wilkins?" I shot back, my voice lowering instinctively as I spoke her name almost like a curse. "You know, the one who traded in our friendship for a taste of popularity, the one who betrayed me when I needed her most. Never forget that." Jake's expression turned serious. I could see he understood the weight of her name, felt the dark shadow it cast upon us both. "You still thinking about that? That was ages ago, Ethan. You can't let it consume you forever." But my heart didn't flutter with guilt, it burned with a relentless fire. "You don't understand, Jake. It was not just losing a friend. It was losing everyone. They all turned their backs on me when I needed them to believe in me. I have to make them pay." The weight of my words lingered in the air, hanging heavy between us like a storm cloud. His brow furrowed, and for a moment I could see the gears turning in his mind. "And how do you plan on doing that? Throwing a mud pie at her during the seminar?" Laughter erupted from a group of students at the front as a certain disheveled, bald man, the professor, arrived. The sound of laughter always made me feel alive, but right then it irritated me, as if they were laughing at the very notion of my revenge. I silenced the swelling tide of tension and straightened my back, pushing my thoughts to the back of my mind as I focused on the professor's entry. "Welcome, everyone," he began, his voice booming over the chatter in the room. "Today we are going to discuss the moral implications of business decisions. But in this seminar you will not simply listen, you will engage, you will work in groups." As he spoke the word groups, my stomach churned. Heart pounding like a tribal drum, I glanced to my left. There she was, Sarah Wilkins, sitting 2 seats away, flipping her hair over her shoulder while she whispered something to her sidekick Amy. They giggled, casting glances at me that felt like daggers. I could almost hear them mock my silence, my isolation in that sea of chairs. "Ethan," Jake's voice snapped me back. "Focus, man, you're going to make yourself sick." "I am focused," I lied. The professor continued, unaware of my internal battle. "Today you will engage with a case study showcasing a real ethical dilemma faced by a corporation. Each group will have to decide what course of action to take. You will need to justify your choices based on moral grounds." "Sounds fun," Jake joked under his breath. I didn't laugh. Instead, I felt restless, something inside me shifting, a restlessness that clung to my skin. I had to find a way to make them feel what I felt, abandoned and alone in a world that had turned dark. As chairs scraped against the floor, the students began to move, forming groups like packs of wolves drawn to a common cause. A knot twisted tighter in my stomach, pulling me toward the very core of my revenge. Every moment felt like a reflection of my past, a reminder of how cruelly the tides of friendship had turned. "Let's see," the professor gestured, his face beaming with enthusiasm. "Choose a partner or group of 3. You have 2 minutes." The clock started ticking and I felt the pressure soar through me like boiling water. I glanced at Jake. "What if I don't want to partner with her?" "You don't get to pick," he replied, shrugging. "How about I handle that awkwardness for you? We can work together." "No, I need to sit with her." "What?" His eyes widened. "Are you insane? You want to put yourself in the path of a train wreck?" "It is time for her to know my pain," I insisted, staring straight ahead. "Time for her to watch everything she took from me become rubble." "Ethan, think this through. I know you want revenge, but revenge, it is justice." The fire inside me flared, crackling and wild. "She is not the same girl I once knew. She is an embodiment of deception, and I need her to understand that I will not let her walk away without consequence." Before Jake could argue further, I stood abruptly, my chair scraping against the ground. I took several steps toward Sarah and her friends, who were huddled together in laughter. I could feel all eyes landing on me like arrows, and I welcomed the attention. "Sarah, can we talk for a second?" The laughter died in the air, leaving a cold silence that hung between us like a sharp knife. She turned slowly, her eyes narrowing, clearly surprised. "Ethan, are you talking to me?" "I am." I held her gaze, the rage and regret twisting inside me like storm clouds ready to burst. I think it's time we engage in a little dialogue about what happened between us. Her smirk faded, replaced by a defensive posture as she glanced back at her friends. This is not the time, Ethan. Oh, it is exactly the time. The intensity of my voice shocked both her and myself. We're working together, right? Together, she echoed, incredulity spilling from her words. You think I want to be in a group with you? Looks like you don't have a choice, I replied, leaning in just enough to show her that I meant business. We need to work together on the case study. It wouldn't do to leave me out of the process, would it? Her friends exchanged bewildered looks, and for a fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability beneath her confident facade. Even though my heart raced with the thrill of confrontation, a part of me almost wished it were different, that things had gone according to my dreams instead of this stark reality. I can't believe you're doing this, she muttered, her voice barely above a whisper. You think I want to? You made your choices, Sarah, and now you must live with them. The professor interrupted us, barely noticing the tension in the room. Time is short, get into your groups. And just like that, the moment shattered around us. I turned, defying any urge to retreat, and gestured for Sarah to follow me. Jake fell into step beside me, uncertainty trailing in his wake. Ethan, what are you doing? He whispered urgently. This is reckless. Reckless is accepting betrayal, I shot back. I felt like metal on fire, forging a new identity in the heat of my emotions. I have to make her understand. She cannot walk away unscathed, not now, not ever. As I settled into a chair across from Sarah, her expression was icy, yet a fire flickered in her gaze. The tension in the room became palpable as our classmates shifted uncomfortably, sensing this was more than just an ordinary project. I could feel the mounting curiosity as they watched us intently, wondering if a fight might break out or if words would be the weapons of choice. Let's get this over with, she said, her tone clipped and defensive. Sure, I said, allowing myself a breath to stabilize my racing heart. Let's talk about the ethical implications of betrayal, shall we? She rolled her eyes but said nothing, her defenses rising like a fortress. I waited, letting the silence thicken as we exchanged glances that spoke volumes. Let me guess, I continued, my voice steady. You think you can pull the wool over my eyes, act as if nothing ever happened? That you can flaunt your shiny new friendships and live your perfect college life without consequences? Ethan, this isn't a therapy session, she shot back, her voice rising just enough to draw attention. You don't just get to air grievances like it's nothing. Why not? I shot back. Why not talk about the crumbling foundations of trust? It matters, Sarah, it matters to me. Just then, laughter erupted from another group, cold and dismissive, the kind that turns the stomach. I could see Jake shifting in his seat, concern etched across his features, but he stayed silent. It was my battle now, and I could feel the electricity in the air building to a crescendo, a race toward inevitable conflict. Just tell me, I urged, my voice dipping low, laced with an underlying desperation. Is it worth it, this new life you've created, because you turned your back on me and I'm still standing here ready to confront the truth? Ethan, she finally said, taking a deep breath, her posture softening slightly. That was the past. I didn't mean for things to happen like they did. It was not just a moment, Sarah, it was my life. My voice cracked as the memories flared behind my eyes, the betrayal, the isolation, but I steeled myself against the wave of emotions crashing inside. Apologies don't change the truth. Maybe it's time to acknowledge that. As the seminar progressed, we tossed ideas back and forth about ethics, but beneath the surface, the real war raged silently. Each snide comment and sharp response sharpened the lines we were drawing, an invisible barrier yet deeply tangible, one that demanded to be crossed. The sensation of vengeance thrummed through me, pushing me forward. I was not just a pawn in this game. I was ready to become the player who flips the board and rewrites the rules. Because in this classroom of shadows, revenge was my only light. I stood on the edge of the campus courtyard, where the vibrant hues of fall foliage were just beginning to dance in the wind. The leaves fluttered like the whispers of secrets long buried. A faint rustling caught my attention, pulling my eyes to the ground where students scurried about, their laughter mingling with the crisp air, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. I clenched my fists, the memories of betrayal tightening their grip around my heart like a vice. The urge to confront my so-called friends surged inside me, an impulse so strong I could almost taste the bitterness on my tongue. Hey, Ethan, a deep voice broke through my thoughts. I turned to see Sam, my closest ally in this twisted ordeal, jogging toward me. His shaggy hair waved behind him as he approached, a lopsided grin plastered on his face despite the grim weight of our shared history. What's up? You look like you just found out about a surprise quiz. It feels like a surprise exam on betrayal, I scoffed, my words tinged with resentment. You know I'm never going to get those back, right? Not after what they did. Sam's face fell serious as he leaned against the railing, the peeling paint flaking under his weight. I know, man, but you can't let them get to you like this. We've talked about it. We need to focus on the plan, not wallow. His voice, laced with concern, sparked a flicker of determination within me. The plan, right? I echoed, forcing a chuckle to mask the storm ruminating beneath my calm facade. How's it coming along? Sam pushed off the railing, his posture shifting from relaxed to alert. I've been doing some digging, like you suggested. People talk, especially about the scholarships. Those rich kids think they own everything, including secrets. I learned closer, my pulse quickening. What did you find? The dean is really tight with the Thompson family, Sam said, glancing around as if conspirators could pop out from behind the trees at any moment. You know, the family holding the grants that helped make Lakeside what it is. They're pure money and influence. That's why they're so untouchable. Right, I said, feeling the weight of each syllable as if it were an anchor dragging me down. How could I dismantle that fortress of connections? So what's the angle? Well, Sam began, his eyes sparkling with mischief. We can expose a few shortcomings. Let's make it known that there's favoring of certain students over others. Start rumors, plant seeds. You know, the cockroaches scatter when the light comes on principle. I turned it over in my mind, securing the shadows, trapping my enemies in their web of greed. I like where this is going. We need proof, though, something tangible that even the school can't ignore. Of course, he nodded, scratching his chin as he pondered. Maybe we can find out if they've been misusing funds, an unnoticed charity scandal or something, then we leverage that. The thought trailed off, leaving a trail of smoke swirling in my head. Breathing in deeply, I steeled myself, feeling the excitement mix with the adrenaline of my resolve. Let's gather whatever we can. I want to make them regret every smug grin they've shared at my expense. Ethan, he said, the last thing we need is to tip our hand too early. You need to find proof that's bulletproof. The last thing you want is for them to turn it on you. I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling tension build. Right, but balance is key. They can't know I'm coming until it is too late. We stick to the shadows. That's the spirit, Sam said, a smile surfacing once more, illuminating his freckled face. But hey, listen, whatever happens, make sure you take care of yourself, okay? Revenge can eat you up. Remember what you said about being different? I shot him a look and his smile faltered. I know, you actually wanted to be a better person, he said, shrugging. And here you are plotting against your old friends. You're not my friends, I retorted, the knot of betrayal tightening in my gut. That was just a masquerade. They wore their masks well, pretending to care. But they thought I was an easy target, a joke in their little society. I'm not a joke, Sam. I will not let them laugh at me anymore. Still, there are consequences, he said quietly, narrowing his eyes slightly. Just remember that. Consequences or not, they shredded me and I need justice. I spat the last word, tasting the fire building inside me. It is crippling me to sit here waiting for only them to thrive. If I don't do anything, I am complicit in my own demise. Sam sighed heavily, crossing his arms over his chest. All right, I get your point, but be careful. You need an inside edge, and I don't want to lose you to the darkness. The chill of his warning settled in the pit of my stomach. You won't lose me, I promised, the weight of my words tangible. I'm not slipping down a rabbit hole, I'm clawing my way to the surface. Good, he replied, his expression softening for a moment. I'll help you dig. We'll get what we need, but I expect you to rethink some of that need for vengeance, okay? I smiled wryly, a small triumph igniting my spirit even as doubt seeped in. Just don't get in my way, Sam. The only thing sitting in my way is my own hesitation. We stood in a haze of quickening breaths, eager anticipation swirling like the leaves overhead. Meet me at the cafe later, I'll have some new leads to share. Sure, man, he said, his voice airy and light as though realizing the metamorphosis that was sure to follow. Just remember, an eye for an eye can leave you blind. Yes, I said dismissively. I'll keep that in mind, now I need some air. Sam nodded, and I turned away, the wind whipping through my hair, mingling with my thoughts. As I walked away, I could feel the oppressive weight of my own thoughts churning like storm clouds brewing in the distance. I glanced over my shoulder, watching Sam's figure shrink as he walked toward the library, his purpose stark against the autumn backdrop. I took in a deep breath, inhaling the slightly burnt scent of leaves mixed with the aroma of coffee wafting from the cafe. Each step away from him weighed heavier than before. Lakeside University had always been my sanctuary, the quiet backdrop against which I built my dreams. But now every brick felt like a reminder of my shattered trust. The laughter ringing from the quad was the mocking symphony of the very people I once considered allies. I felt their eyes on me even when they were. Every corner I turned, every shadow cast by the fading sun felt like it shifted toward me, generating a primal instinct to confront my past. After some aimless wandering, I found myself outside the student center, a hub of sorts, teeming with students. A part of me felt dragged along by the current, but the bigger part was alive with purpose. This was a gathering place, a conduit of rumors and whispers, a chaotic explosion of vibrant conversations that I could finally manipulate to my advantage. Hey Ethan, over here. I turned to see Jesse waving from a nearby table. My blood ran cold. He was one of the Thompson friends, a prattling fool who thrived under the pressure of privilege. He signaled for me to join, and for a moment hesitation clouded my judgment. Was I ready for this subtle manipulation? I approached, forcing a casual smile as my heart raced. What's up, Jesse? He leaned back in his chair, a cheeseburger in front of him. Did you hear about that big party at the Thompson house next week? They've really outdone themselves this time. You could say it's gonna be the event of the year. I fought back a wave of anger, a part of me seethed at the thought of their lavish lives continuing without consequences. Sounds fun, I replied, not quite masking the distaste in my voice. Oh, you should come, it's not the same without you, Jesse said, way too charmingly. Besides, this is your chance to reconnect with everyone, bury the hatchet, so to speak. I fought the urge to roll my eyes. Yeah, I don't think so. Come on, man, it'll be great. Lots of debauchery, drink, and dancing, Jesse said with an over-the-top swagger. And plenty of chances to catch up on all the gossip. You should be in the loop. Gossip, huh? I jabbed, allowing thinly veiled sarcasm to slip from my lips. Like the ones about my misfortune? Oh, Ethan, lighten up. It was just a misunderstanding. It happens, right? His unbothered attitude grating against my skin like a rough cloth. Sure, I replied, forcing a smile. Is that what you all tell yourselves to sleep at night? That it's just misunderstanding? Man, it wasn't personal. You gotta stop acting like it was war. We all made mistakes. Those were tough calls, he said, waving his greasy hand dismissively. Let's just move on, move on. My voice rose with indignation, drawing the attention of a few passers-by. You want me to forgive and forget? You took away something that was mine, Jesse, something I earned. Look, I'm sorry for what it's worth, he said, the slightest hint of sheepishness breaking through his bravado. But time to let it go. I mean, it's been a while. Most of us have regret. You just need to let it wash over you. It'll be easier, trust me. I threw in a harsh laugh, biting back the urge to shake him until he understood my pain. Trust you? That's rich coming from someone who only cares about saving face. Well, okay, he retorted, his easy demeanor cracking under the pressure. No need to get hostile. Not being hostile, I'm being realistic. You think everything resets because you've decided it should? You have no idea what it's like to watch everything you built burn in front of your eyes. My words dripped with venom, and I could feel every ounce of rage spitting toward him. Jesse looked taken aback, and the silence hung thick between us, simmering with tension. You've changed, Ethan. You're more deeply affected than I thought, he said, his eyes scanning my face. Well, some of us don't have the luxury of shrugging things off, Jesse, I shot back, the words spewing from my mouth as if taking a life of their own. Some of us have to face our demons head-on. Fine, do what you want, he said finally, an air of resignation taking over. But when you're ready to apologize for what you just said, you know where to find me. As he turned away, I felt a mix of satisfaction and remorse settling uncomfortably in my chest. Anger brewed, but beneath it was a deeper sense of loss, a nostalgia for who I had been. I shifted on my feet, still feeling tethered to the past in this moment where betrayal drew lines in the sand, where trust once dwelled. Still somewhat seething, I decided to walk away, but as I headed toward the main building, the horizon broke, giving way to sun rays piercing through the clouds. The world around me felt alive, buzzing with possibility, the air electric with promises of things to come. I returned to my mission, chasing the shadows embroidered within my heart. They would pay, I would see to it personally. But for now, my journey was just beginning. Hidden truths awaited, lurking in the corners of this school that had once felt like home. I steeled my resolve, each step echoing a silent oath, to never again be prey, to bring justice forth even if it meant dancing among the flames of my own darkness. The soft hum of the humdrum campus life faded into the background as I sat alone on a weathered bench beneath a massive oak tree in the main quad of Lakeside University. The golden leaves were starting to fall, swirling in the cool autumn breeze like whispers of a past I could never forget. I was lost in my thoughts, trapped in the turmoil of emotions swirling inside me like a storm when I saw her. Olivia stood at the edge of the quad, tossing her long, dark hair over her shoulder, laughing with a group of friends. I felt something poisonous rise in my chest as I watched. She had no idea what I was plotting. The betrayal of her friendship cut deeper than any blade, and I was standing at the edge of a precipice, staring down into oblivion. How could she betray me like that? Hey, Ethan. I turned startled and saw Max approaching, his usual laid-back grin plastered on his face, probably just coming from yet another day of pretending to study. What's up, buddy? You look like your dog just died. A bitter laugh escaped me. No dog, just contemplating the nature of evil. I directed my gaze back toward Olivia, hollow laughter suddenly echoing in my ears. How had I allowed myself to be so foolishly trusting? The way she had played both sides, the way she had laughed beneath the facade of friendship, the way she had torn the foundation of my trust down. I could almost feel the callous wind sweeping up leaves around me, accentuating the chill in my heart. Max squinted in the direction I was staring, then turned back to me, eyebrows raised. You mean Olivia? What a piece of work she is. I mean, seriously, who does that? You were like her #1 supporter. I clenched my fists at my sides, every nerve ending in my body screaming to stay calm. You know the story, Max? She got close to Ryan, really close. Yeah, I know, but honestly, man, are you surprised? It was only a matter of time before she went after the shiny new toy. He slumped beside me, glancing cautiously around as if Olivia might materialize from the crowd of students at any moment. Honestly, I don't get it. You and her were good together, right? What the hell happened? There was a whole lot of perfection in the beginning, I murmured, feeling the chill creeping into my bones as the wind picked up. My heart ached and I felt like I was trapped in this cycle of betrayal and disappointment. Then she decided to chase after Ryan, who has been nothing but a snake from the start. He's poison, sunshine and lollipops on the outside, but you get too close and you're bound to get burned. Max nodded, understanding spilling across his face. He's always been that way. That whole perfect boyfriend image is all for show. You and I both know he'd stab a friend in the back for a shot at fame. Exactly, I said bitterly. Rage bubbled beneath my skin as every memory flooded back, detailing precisely how he had wormed his way into her heart. I just don't get it. Why did she choose him? I supported her through everything. Sometimes, man, it's not about logic. It's about whatever shiny things are dangling in front of us. Max shrugged. As I tried to wallow in the warmth of friendship, I felt like the world was twisting around me. My heart raced at the idea of Olivia finding solace, finding joy in Ryan's arms where I thought I would have been. Every glance they shared was a jab, a reminder of the relationship I had lost and the trust broken. I could feel the resolve growing through the confusion, a desire to flip the balance to reclaim what had been stolen from me. Tell me what you're thinking, Ethan. I know that look. Max's tone shifted, a hint of curiosity replacing his previous levity. I sighed, staring at my hands, the rough texture of the bench beneath me grounding me back to the present. The oak tree loomed above us, silently observing my chaos. I want to make her feel what I feel. I want her to understand the consequences of her actions. Yeah, but how? You're not going to just go off the deep end, are you? Max, I can't just sit here and let it happen. I need her to experience the same pain I felt, something that'll make her think twice. She thinks everything is fine just because she's with him now. I could feel the words rolling off my tongue, the weight of the anger making them even heavier. She needs to know that the world doesn't revolve around her whims. So what, you're going to get revenge? Live up to that whole "the best revenge is living well" saying? He chuckled, pushing back, but I saw the flicker of concern in his eyes. Maybe, but it's more than that. I said, my voice steady and more certain than I felt. It could be a wake-up call, show her the real Ryan, make her realize that she made the wrong choice. Man, if you pull this off, you better do it right. She's not just going to roll over after you shove her face in it, she's going to fight back. I nodded, the gears in my head beginning to move. I had to know Ryan's weaknesses. I needed to find a way through his carefully crafted facade. He was arrogant but charming, the kind of guy that could win over anyone with just a smile. But what if I turned that charm against him? If I could set him up to slip, to expose the real man he was, it might just pull Olivia from his grasp. Good thing I've been doing my homework. I smirked, ideas swirling like those blasted leaves around me. I know how flush his ego is. He can't stand being second best. I just need to throw a little fire on the flames. Like what? I can use that campus event next week, the Halloween party. They're doing a costume contest and everyone talks big about winning. A plan was forming as I pictured it in my mind. I'll enter wearing something intense, something dazzling, something that'll make heads turn. I can be the center of attention. Olivia will be there, and when she sees me taking every ounce of attention that Ryan thinks is his, she will realize it was a mistake to choose him. Yes. Because of a costume contest, she will suddenly see the error of her ways. Max laughed, but there was a hint of agreement. But you need to go bigger if you really want to get to him. Trust me, I have a few things planned. As I outlined it to him, my heart raced with anticipation. Layering the plan, I thought of how I would bring things to a head. What if I create this whole show, tease Ryan in front of her? As the crowd starts to buzz, I can drown him in his own words. I could see the dramatic flare in my head, a perfect storm brewing. Max raised an eyebrow, intrigued now. You're serious about this? Absolutely. But what happens when everything backfires? You know it might not work. I'm willing to take that chance, I said firmly, the certainty in my voice reflecting the growing vigor in my heart. The more I think about it, the more convinced I am. It's not just Olivia, it's about sending a message to Ryan too, a taste of consequence. He leaned back against the bench, running his fingers through his sandy brown hair, considering everything I said. But revenge doesn't always have a happy ending, man. It can spiral out of control quickly. Every great story has a climax, I replied, determination etched in my features. And in that moment, the bubbling rage that had threatened to consume me turned into something sharper, something focused. I would reclaim my narrative. This isn't just for me, it's for everyone they've hurt. It's about carving out a piece. I hope you know what you're doing, Ethan. Trust me, I do. I meant it, and for the first time since this all began, I felt the chains binding my heart begin to crack. I could see it taking shape. I can't let them continue to play around with people's lives. The shadows of dusk began to fall, the sun dipping low on the horizon, painting the campus in hues of orange and purple, illuminating the unsteady resolve in my heart. Until now, I had fought the tide of betrayal with sorrow, but now I was preparing for battle. This wasn't just going to be a contest for Olivia's attention. No, it was much more than that. It was war, and I was ready to take the first shot. The undercurrents of my emotions surged, their waves crashing against the shore of my conscience as I planned to unleash that fury in a calculated cascade of consequences. The turning tide was at hand, and I was prepared to ride it all the way to the end. They say that revenge is a dish best served cold. But in that moment, as I stood outside the darkened entrance of the Lakeside University auditorium, my heart felt like it was on fire. I could feel the anticipation thrumming in my chest like a live wire. The past few weeks had led me here, to this precise moment, the culmination of my plans to settle the score with Tyler Darrow and his pack of sycophants who had thought they could ruin me without consequence. The chill of the early evening air swept around me, but I was too focused on what lay ahead to feel the cold. I stepped inside the auditorium, the smell of damp wood and old books wrapping around me like a shroud. The last remnants of daylight seeped through the dirty windows, casting long shadows across the rows of empty seats. It was strange how the insides of this building still felt like a second home, even now marred by the memories of humiliation and betrayal. My breath caught a little as I scanned the once familiar space, recalling all the times I had stood at that podium during presentations and debates, my voice strong and confident. "Ethan, you here?" A whisper broke through my thoughts, sharp and raw. It was Alex, my best friend and accomplice in this twisted game of revenge. He was pacing near the stage, fiddling with the edges of his shirt like a nervous tick. I could see the concerns etched on his face, the worry masking his usual carefree demeanor. "Yeah," I replied, my voice steady as I walked closer. "What's the word?" He leaned into me, his voice barely above a whisper. You know they're going to be here, right? Tyler and his crew. I nodded, feeling the weight of the moment resting on me like a heavy cloak. I know, that's the point. They think they can just waltz in here and continue their reign of terror without anyone standing up to them. They've been cozying up to the faculty too. I overheard them talking about how they can influence the student council, Alex said, running a hand through his messy hair, an action he did whenever he was anxious. Let them try. Tonight we expose them. I took a deep breath, the tang of musty air filling my lungs. You remember our plan, right? Of course, he muttered, his brow furrowing, but concern still lingered in his eyes. I leaned closer, lowering my voice to speak only to him. This is it, Alex. We reveal everything. All the lies, the cheating, the underhanded tactics Tyler used to position himself as the king of this campus. The sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway, pulling both of our attention toward the massive wooden doors that led into the auditorium. They swung open, and the first few members of Tyler's entourage trudged in, laughter spilling from their lips, a cacophony of arrogance. There they are, I said, feeling adrenaline surge through me. Remember, just stick to the plan. No matter what happens, Alex warned, his eyes darting nervously. Right, just keep them talking, I said, forcing calmness into my voice. As they settled into their seats, I could see Tyler Darrow at the back. His casual confidence radiated from him like a force field. He ran a hand over his slick back hair and leaned back, smirking as if he owned the place. My blood boiled at the sight of him, the memories flooding back of how he'd orchestrated my expulsion from the student council last semester, twisting truths into fabrications. The time for small talk was over. I stepped to the front of the auditorium, could feel the energy shift in the room as I spoke, my voice ringing out over the crowd, firm and unwavering. Thank you all for coming. Tonight is about the truth. The murmurs rippled through the room like a wave, curiosity replacing the laughter that had filled it moments before. Tyler sat up straighter, his smile fading, replaced by an annoyed frown. Are you serious, Rivers? No one wants to hear your sob story, Tyler scoffed, crossing his arms. I pressed on, allowing myself a small, satisfying smile at the disruption of his calm. You think you can just walk in here and bully everyone, don't you? But no one is going to listen to you tonight. You, Tyler, have cultivated an empire of lies, and tonight we're tearing it down brick by brick. You think you can take me down? His voice was low, dripping with contempt, but I could see the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Not just me. Everyone you've hurt, I replied, gesturing toward the students seated in the front rows. We're all tired of being afraid of you. I turned to the crowd, their interest palpable, the air thick with tension as they whispered among themselves. Let's start with the truth about the student council election. Tyler, remember those rumors you spread about my grades? Those lies you told to your friends to turn them against me? The murmurs grew louder. I could feel the weight of disbelief settling in the audience while Alex moved closer to my side as if to amplify my resolve. Dude, you just made that up. Get real, Tyler said, waving his hand dismissively. Did I? Or was it you who called Mrs. Green, the guidance counselor, to say I was fake and couldn't handle the pressure? You used your charm to manipulate her into believing your filthy lies. Isn't that right, Mrs. Green? The guidance counselor stepped into the auditorium, looking bewildered but resolute. Ethan, I was misled, she said. A murmur of shock rippled through the audience. I could practically taste the tension in the air, sweet and intoxicating as the truth began to unravel. No one is here to defend you, Tyler. Everyone has seen through your facade, I said, my voice gaining strength. But the council chose me, they saw potential, Tyler yelled, but even his bravado sounded weak now. Potential built off lies and betrayal. Are you proud of that? You may have won the popularity contest, but inside you're still the same bully who pushed me down when I was already vulnerable. I countered, meeting his eyes with a calm fury that threatened to boil over. The air thickened as I continued, pulling the seams of his world apart. Tyler, you've taken joy in terrorizing others for far too long. You treat this school like it is your playground while others suffer the level of cruelty you inflict. What are you even talking about? Tyler shot back, restless in his chair. I'm talking about how many students you've betrayed, I said, taking a deep breath as I glanced at my classmates, their faces a mixture of shock and understanding. Let's recount those stories, shall we? It was at that moment, the air electric with anticipation, that a student named Mia, whom Tyler had publicly humiliated during last year's formal, stood up. I want to say something. Her voice trembled but was powerful nonetheless. Yes, Mia, speak, I encouraged, grateful for the support. Tyler's face drained of color, his swagger faltering. You can't be serious. But she continued, her voice steadying. You made my life a nightmare, Tyler. I barely wanted to come back to school last year because of everything you said and did. I was humiliated in front of the entire class and you never apologized for it. You turned people against me. You were an easy target. Weak, Tyler sneered, but the ball had returned to his throat, uncharacteristically unsure. Mia stood tall. No, you twisted it so that it looked like I was otherwise. The twisting lies came from you. You're nothing but a coward hiding behind false bravado. Tyler fidgeted, the cracks in his armor beginning to deepen. I looked at Mia with gratitude, realizing how empowered she must feel standing up after all this time. We are done being afraid of you, I called out, inviting others to join in. Then a student named Jake, another victim of Tyler's cruel games, raised his hand. Dude, you were so pathetic you wouldn't even talk to girls unless your friends prompted it. You pushed everyone else down to feel better about yourself. Let's talk about Emily too, Another voice arose, echoing the sentiments of those around the auditorium. Tyler, you bullied her until she couldn't attend classes. We saw how sick you were, pretending to care while reveling in her pain. The chorus grew louder, resonating with collective anger and truth. The auditorium shifted from tension to an unexpected camaraderie as each person added their voice to the growing list of Tyler's transgressions. From the back, I could see Tyler trying to fight it, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water, desperately trying to restore his image. You're all overreacting, it's just jokes. Jokes don't ruin people's lives, Tyler. It was Alex who stepped forward, voice steady and unwavering. This is a chance for you to realize how wrong you've been and how easy it is to fall from grace. We're all taking away your power tonight. Tyler looked around, perhaps for the first time realizing he was not in control anymore. This isn't over, he hissed, his bravado beginning to cave under the weight of shame. Oh, it is over, Tyler, I said, my heart racing. You just lost the respect of everyone you sought to control. Your reign of fear ends here. He looked like he wanted to fight back, to grit his teeth and put on the mask of the predator he hid behind. But the truth stripped him bare. And one by one, students started to rise from their seats, emboldened by the surge of empowerment. I smiled softly as the crowd gathered around me, creating a wall of support and solidarity against the very person who had tried to tear us apart, stitching our wounds back together in the face of fear. We don't need any more tyrants. The auditorium was filled with echoes of agreement, hands raised in unison. It felt like an uprising in its most beautiful form. Together we had cultivated a power that had lain dormant for far too long, and with each voice we took Tyler's strength away. Goodbye, Tyler, I said softly but firmly. The energy shifted distinctly, the finality in my voice cutting through the noise. With Tyler's facade shattered, I felt lighter, as if the chains that held us were breaking, one link at a time. And then, for the first time in what felt like forever, I was free. I stood outside the ornate wooden doors of the Lakeside University's auditorium, my heart pounding like a drum in the silence around me. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting an amber glow that filtered through the tall windows, illuminating the dust that hung in the air. This was the place where it all began, the place where Jenna had smiled at me under the bright lights, the place I had once called a second home before everything turned to ash. I inhaled deeply, tasting the bitterness of betrayal on my tongue, the anger bubbling just beneath the surface. This was it. My final act of revenge was about to unfold. Inside, students were milling about, their laughter echoing against the walls as they prepared for the annual debate competition. I could hear snippets of conversation, enthusiastic discussions about topics I no longer cared about. I brushed my palm against the worn wood of the door, pushing it open and stepping into the brightly lit room. The atmosphere was electric, charged with anticipation like a storm waiting to break. My breath caught as I scanned the room, my gaze landing on Jenna, her long hair cascading over her shoulders, the spark in her eyes as she chatted animatedly to a group of friends. At that moment, my resolve hardened. Stepping onto the stage was my final destination, not just for the competition itself, but for the confrontation I had meticulously crafted in my mind. I walked past the rows of chairs, confident steps turning into a grounded stance as I approached the podium. A rush of adrenaline surged through me, and I could almost hear the beat of my heart syncing with the soft thud of my shoes against the wooden floor. The moderator was scrolling through his notes, oblivious to the raging storm within me. Welcome, we're thrilled to have everyone here for tonight's debates, the moderator announced, his voice smooth and engaging, but I barely registered his words. I focused solely on Jenna, who had now caught sight of me and shifted her gaze, her smile melting into a look of disbelief. Let's get started with our first speaker, Ethan Rivers. The crowd applauded, but their claps faded into the background as I approached the microphone, gripping the stand tightly. The lights above felt blinding, framing me in a spotlight that felt simultaneously empowering and isolating. I could sense their curious stares. My classmates' friends who hadn't picked a side mostly regarded me with pity. I cleared my throat, but my voice held a tremor that I quickly suppressed as I began to speak. Thank you, everyone, I started, trying to project confidence. I am here not just to debate, but to uncover the truth about something that has long been hidden beneath the surface. Murmurs spread through the crowd, and I saw Jenna shift in her seat, the color draining from her face. I could not decipher her expression, but felt a mix of regret and righteousness wash over me. Was this really how far I had to go for closure? Tonight, I will be discussing the ethics of loyalty and its consequences when that loyalty is betrayed. You see, loyalty is a fragile thing, a thread that binds us to those we trust. But what happens when that thread is cut? I paused, allowing my words to sink in, feeding off the growing tension in the room. I moved forward slightly, leaning into the microphone. What happens when your best friend, the person you thought would always have your back, turns against you? An uncomfortable silence filled the auditorium, tension rising like an unanswered question hanging in the air. I maintained my gaze on Jenna, whose eyes flickered with uncertainty and fear. It was perfect. I was losing myself in the moment as I filled with a sense of purpose I had been lacking for far too long. In my mind, I could see the events unraveling, the night Jenna had walked away, the hushed whispers, the betrayal that cut me to the core. I imagine that you all know what it feels like to be let down by someone you loved or trusted. Feeling that searing pain when the person you call your friend betrays you in a way you never thought possible. Everyone in this room has likely experienced a moment like that, haven't you? This time, voices of agreement rippled through the crowd. I felt their eyes, those familiar faces, nodding at my words, and I embraced the warmth of their collective understanding. In my case, it wasn't just a simple letdown. No, it was so much more. The trust the years spent building our friendship were shattered in a single moment. The words flowed, and I could almost taste the bitterness on my lips again. Jenna Matthews, you stood there and chose to believe lies over our friendship. We laughed together, shared dreams together, yet when the moment came, you didn't hesitate to walk away. The tension in the room thickened. I could see a flicker of pain in Jenna's eyes, yet beneath that pain was something else that looked alarmingly close to guilt. Ethan. She mouthed, her face paling as everyone turned their heads toward her in a mixture of surprise and intrigue. Do you remember that summer? The nights we spent under the stars, the secrets you swore you would keep. Do you remember how you promised me that nothing would come between us? I continued, my voice gaining momentum. With each sentence, I was feeling stronger, the power of my words wrapping around me like a shield. That was before you decided to stab me in the back without so much as a glance back. The crowd was simmering now, caught between the spectacle unfolding on stage and the emotions twirling like a tempest. The faces blurred together, but I could see Jenna's agitation rising, her fists clenching subtly. You don't understand, she interjected, her voice cracking slightly from the tension. Do I not? Or perhaps you do not realize the depth of your actions, I shot back, my heart racing as I confronted my demons. You turned everyone against me, used my vulnerabilities as fodder for gossip and cruel laughter. You, I pointed directly at her, made a choice to betray our friendship for your own gain. A murmur passed through the audience, filled with the weight of shared understanding, but also skepticism. Some of them knew Jenna, a charismatic leader, the golden girl of our school. Could they reconcile her image with the persona I now painted? There came a point where I thought redemption was impossible. I sank deep into my own despair, convinced I would never find my way out. But what I learned through that pain is that people sometimes reap what they sow. I took a deep breath, swallowing my nerves as I thought about the lengths I had gone to reach this moment. Revenge might be sweet for some, but forgiveness is what liberates. The words hung there, resonating against the echo of my heartache, and a quiet stillness ensued. I noticed Jenna's shoulders drop slightly. She looked vulnerable, human for the first time in months. You don't know what happened after, she cried out, her voice breaking as the fear I had seen earlier transformed into desperation. I didn't want any of it to happen. I thought what, Jenna? I interrupted, my eyes narrowing. That it was okay to use me as a stepping stone, that breaking someone would somehow make you shine brighter, that you would come out unscathed. I thought I was helping, she replied, her voice dropping to a near whisper, a tremor betraying her. I didn't know they would take it that far. You didn't care to find out, did you? I snapped back, angry that she still tried to defend herself. I walked back to the center of the stage, feeling the weight of their eyes upon us, the intensity drawing us into a standoff of emotional rawness. You think I have it easy, I continued, lowering my voice to an almost conversant level. You forget I'm not the only one who suffered because of your choices. In that moment, it was as if the auditorium shifted. The audience, once passive observers, leaned in closer, their breaths collectively held. I could feel hearts beating, minds racing, and stories intertwining. Each person in this room had faced their versions of betrayal, some active, some silent. I wasn't just speaking for myself. I was speaking for all the lost friendships, the missed chances, and the pain hidden behind smiles. Jenna, I used to think that revenge was going to bring me peace. That making you hurt would somehow fill the void you left me with, I spoke, my voice softening as the tension in my shoulders began to ease. But it didn't. You were right about one thing. I was drowning in a sea of negativity and I nearly lost myself to it. Sorry, she whispered, eyes wide with frustration, yet sincerity was evident in her tone. If I could turn back time, I would. I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted to be liked. I wanted to belong. I held her gaze, searching for the truth amidst the swirling emotions. Then own it, Jenna, I urged, my eyes locking with hers, my heart beating hard in my chest. Own your mistakes, acknowledge that you hurt people, don't hide behind your false friendships. The auditorium remained still, the air thick with anticipation as each person waited for what was to come next. The sides were drawn, and where I had expected to feel anger and hatred, what flowed instead was the realization that in this moment, forgiveness was humanity's greatest gift. You must be brave enough to face what you did and make it right, not just for me but for yourself, I continued, my voice rising, taking on a new power, one that I had lacked for so long. Because your freedom from this burden will be a stronger bond than any superficial friendship. Jenna's body trembled slightly, and for a moment I could have sworn I saw a glimpse of the girl I had once called a friend. I am sorry, Ethan. I thought if I made them laugh, I would matter. I thought they would accept me, but I lost you in the process, she admitted, the sincerity washed over her like tears ready to spill. I closed my eyes and breathed in deeply, the weight of our history flooding back. It's never too late to choose another path, I said softly, almost as if speaking to myself. We aren't defined by our past, we can redefine ourselves every day. I could see tears glistening in her eyes, the crowd surrounding us silent, captivated by the raw emotions swimming between us. I wish I could take back the hurt I caused, the rifts I created, Jenna spoke, her voice cracking, a ripple of emotion hitting her with each word. I never meant to hurt you. Maybe it's time we both reclaim our narratives, I replied, my heart racing, the edges of resentment slowly blurring as I gazed at her with fresh eyes. Because holding on to anger will only keep us both prisoners of our past. And just like that, the tension dissolved as a hush settled over the auditorium. The audience shifted, realizing that perhaps the greatest victories did not lie in revenge but in healing. In the end, as I stood there, the applause of my peers blended into the cacophony of healing. It wasn't about putting Jenna on display for her sins, but about finding my own forgiveness too. Was it the unexpected path I had envisioned? No, it was something more profound and far more beautiful, a step toward reclamation, a chance to rewrite our stories if only we dared. The lights dimmed, the applause rising to a crescendo, and as I stepped away from the podium, I felt a wave of relief wash over me, settling the tumult in my heart. I had come here seeking revenge but left with something infinitely more valuable. The strength of my voice, the power of forgiveness, and a hope that perhaps, in time, we could find a way back to each other once again.